radical left Democrat gets destroyed by former sports commentator Jason Whitlock in their discussion about the UCLA protests occurring on that campus and the chaos that subsequently happened, which culminated in police presence and being extinguished or at least neutralized, and that operation got shut down, just like the University of Columbia in Manhattan. We need to crack down on these illegal activities across our nation and establish law and order. Mr. Lamont Hill, check out his reaction, then check out my reaction after I roll the clip. Let's go.
Mayor Adams, others are frustrated and they're trying to put a stop to that. Is that the kind of protest you were involved with when you were in college? Don't you think these kids, maybe, have you seen the videos of the UCLA protesters? Look like the Bloods and the Crips going at each other. You know, some were pro-Hamas, some pro-Israel. Don't you think the kind of protest we're seeing on college campuses looks more BLM-ish and dare I say January 6th-ish than perhaps what you were doing when you were in college?
One slight correction: some people were anti-war, and some people might identify as pro-Israel. Some might identify as pro-Palestinian. The group didn't identify as pro-Hamas. That's an unfair characterization. But to your bigger question, I think we shouldn't get nostalgic about the past. You know, Martin, a sit-in. Taking over the Pettus Bridge. These are appropriations of public space. These are illegal activities. This is civil disobedience. Taking over a building is exactly what happened at Howard University 30 years ago. Taking over the A building. It's happened at Morehouse when I was there. It's happened at universities when I've been a professor. I don't have a problem with people taking over buildings. The problem now is, if anything, these corporate universities are trying to give students protest areas. You know, I just saw a compromise made at Northwestern University where they told the students, okay, you can protest till June and we'll give you a protest circle. It ain't a protest if you give me the circle. It's not a protest if you give me a date to stop. I'm just doing what you want me to do. No, a protest is supposed to disrupt the civic order. It's supposed to make the status quo unsustainable. I'm cool with that. Do I agree with violence? No. But a lot of the violence I saw at UCLA, to use your example, as you pointed, were outside agitators. It wasn't students. And a lot of it was based on misrepresentations of what was happening. I was very frustrated to see some prominent people misrepresent what's happening at UCLA and other places on their social media accounts. People like Emmanuel Acho, for example. So to me, at the end of the day, no problem at all with disruption. Again, you don't have to tear up the whole university, but making the university uncomfortable is exactly what you're supposed to do. And I'm a parent of a college student, and you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm okay with it. Get your grades done, but tear some shit up too.
And so I hear that, Marc, tear some shit up too. And again, that's what I always hear from this protest movement, that and connect BLM, Antifa. There are people very skilled at tearing down who I've seen no evidence of that they're capable of building anything. And so it just seems like destruction for destruction's sake. And so if you could, well, let's start with the biggest scam we've had the last 10 years, BLM. What have they built? I know I can rattle off everything they tore down. What have they built?
You know,
when that's right. They built new homes in gated white communities. But continue. Go ahead. What else have they built?
You know, I wouldn't get into the specifics of individual members. We can have critiques of people's choices. But if you're talking about the actual movement and the movement for Black Lives, I'll give you just one example. Mother's Day is Sunday after next, and there is a Mother's Day bailout. There's been a Mother's Day bailout for the last, I want to say 6 years, but certainly since the marches, where through mutual aid, we actually bail mothers out of jail so they can be with their families. I believe, and I think you believe, that families are a bedrock of our community. And oftentimes people who are in jail because they don't have enough money not to be in jail, that's a social issue. That's an economic issue that we need to repair. We've seen that. We've seen mutual aid.
No, I want you to finish.
Oh yeah, we've seen voter registration campaigns. We've seen food security or food responses to food insecurity, community gardens built. We've seen breakfast programs. We've seen people right now trying to build schools. We've even seen people, and again, I don't agree with them, but they running for office. So they've even mounted political campaigns. Some of them are self-serving, some of them are wrong-headed. But I'm saying things have come out of this movement beyond the individual actions of some people.
Okay, so you witnessed that interview. Did you see the look on Marc's face after he said, yeah, I told my son to get good grades, but go ahead and tear some shit up? Did you see his laughter turn into, his face went like this? And then it went like this, real serious. And then it turned into a grimace when Jason Whitlock was getting after him about what he said about tearing shit up. It is not the way. It is not the way. What is destruction? What comes out of destruction? Nothing. More destruction, probably retaliation, jail time, everything like that. If you want to effect change, you do it through your slate legislation. You vote people in that think like you, and you get them in the office, and they write bills that support your cause. They get passed into law. Boom, there's the change. But commandeering buildings, breaking windows, occupying other people's property is illegal. That is punishable under state and federal law. It's just that simple. There's nothing that you could say that could justify UCLA students and faculty and outside participants from doing what they did. And I'm glad that the police moved in and squashed a lot of it. There's still some skirmishes going on, but for the most part, that huge movement is at a bare minimum right now. I'm pretty sure that there's still some protests going on, but that's about it. So if one question that I want to ask Marc is, since you're about tearing shit up and occupying buildings that don't belong to you and causing disruption and stuff like that, I mean, are you for squatters' rights? Is Marc Lamont Hill for squatters' rights? Does Marc agree with student loan bailouts, that taxpayer money should be used to pay off student loans of people who are irresponsible? That's what I really want to know. And regarding the conversation that took place after Marc Lamont Hill said tear some shit up and Jason Whitlock was going after him, hey, a legitimate question is, what did BLM build? That is a good, legitimate question. Marc mentioned that there's some chapters across the United States, BLM chapters across the United States, that are conducting Mother's Day bailouts. Although it may sound like a noble cause on the surface, what about Father's Day bailouts? Aren't fathers just as important as mothers? That's my question. Marc mentioned combating food insecurity. There are a lot of places in the United States that that have food deserts, which means that there isn't a grocery store within walking distance, reasonable walking distance for the average person. They will have to get on a bus or cab or drive to the closest grocery store, which may be 10 miles away, that sells organic fruits and vegetables and meats and healthy things to keep you moving in a positive manner. Some of these food deserts only have Dollar Trees, Dollar Generals, and things like that. So I think combating food deserts and food insecurity is a noble cause, but without seeing an accountability of how much money is being spent for that effort, one can say anything that Black Lives Matter is producing, but if it's not documented and it's not available for public consumption, then it may or may not be true. Just a thought that I want to put out there. Very important stuff. Very important stuff. Okay, so here's I did a little research on the Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation, and what I found was that in 2020, Black Lives Matter raised $90 million through small donations that averaged $30 per person. Now, if I was a donator and I came across information that some of that money was most of it was mismanaged and didn't go to causes that improved Black lives, I'd be hot, red, steaming mad, obviously, right? Because I was sold a bill of goods. On one hand, Black Lives Matter said that the money was going to be used for one thing, and then they turn around and use it for another thing. And they received huge backlash for that. Here's just a quick rundown. So in 2020, they raised $90 million. From that, they bought a $6 million mansion in California, which they used for multiple personal birthday parties. But the property was supposed to be for artists and other content creators to use where they could create content in that building, right? Whether or not that was done, I don't know. Then there was another $841,000 that was paid to one of the co-founders' husbands for specific services, or for services that were unspecified. Let me correct that, right? There was about $2 million that was $2 million that was dispersed to other family members throughout the United States that had businesses. I don't know what those businesses were. I don't know what products or services that they provide, but this is good that they provided, but this is good stuff. $8.4 million went to operating expenses, whatever that means. Maybe to keep the lights on, maybe to rent some vehicles to get around and spread community love. Another $21.7 million in grants went to 30 organizations and 11 other Black Lives Matter chapters across the United States. What did they do with that money? I don't know. Maybe Mother's Day bailout, maybe fighting food insecurity, maybe. But there isn't an official record showing how this money was spent, right? So my research also revealed that according to 990 tax forms that they finally disclosed, I think it was in 2021 or 2022, it revealed that there were only 2 paid employees for the BLM network, Global Network Foundation, and the other 49,000 members were volunteers. So right off the bat, there were the potential for conflict of interest and spending money without a board members approval, because there was only one board member. And this co-founder didn't hold any board meetings, didn't put any proposals up for board approval. It was just a writing a check, superficially writing a check out to whatever cause that this one co-founder, who was the board chair of a non-existing board, saw fit, right? The tax 990 form, it showed that there was a co-founder that was the foundation's board's sole voting director, held no board meetings. I said that before. I I think Black Lives Matter, once they started filling out these Tax 990 forms, out of the 90 million that was raised in 2020, I think in 2021 or 2022, the 990 tax form showed that Black Lives Matter had $42 million in assets, which could mean cash and property combined. I'm not sure what that is. But the most recent tax form 990 filing took place this year, and it showed that they had about $30 million in assets. And so that tells me that the donations had slowed to a trickle, and the expenses or expenditures did not slow down. And maybe they sold off some of the assets or whatever the case is. But I project that each filing year into the future will reveal that the cash on hand, the assets on hand are going to further decline until the organization is run out of business, really, to be honest with you. And one more thing about how the Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation spent the $90 million that was raised in 2020. There were $500,000 grants that went across Black Lives Matter chapters across the United States. What was the process for that? Was there an application process? What was the criteria for approving those applications, for rejecting those applications? These are very important questions. Do they have records indicating that there was a process for dispersing $500,000 on 30 or 40, 50 occasions since the inception of Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation? So, Mr. Hill, although I respect your credentials as a professor and you're down on the ground, listen, don't encourage these kids to tear shit up, right? The way to effect change is to vote people in state legislature or the federal U.S. House of Representatives or the U.S. Senate. Vote people in that share your values, support them, donate to their cause, and be on their backs to draft bills, get it voted on, bring it to the floor, turn it into law by getting it on the president's desk, whatever it is, and sign it into law. Breaking windows, occupying buildings, and shouting at the top of your lungs for causes that are happening outside the United States is uncalled for, it's illegal, and there's a more civilized way to make change. I am Greg Wright. Thanks for listening. See you next time.